Water was a way to open up the dialogue we needed about money. I believe that the relationship that we have with water can inform our relationship with our finances. And as Lutherans, these two necessities meet in the sacrament of our baptism. Baptism transforms us into people fit for God's mission. Christ raises us up into new life to be children of God. What we do with our gifts is of our own choosing, so why not choose to love the communities that we've been called to serve with this good news? And there are multiple ways in which we can live out our baptismal promise, ways that are bright, beautiful, and life-giving when the world seems cast in shadows. Baptism empowers us to confront our fears and anxieties, and we are welcomed to the table of grace where barriers are overcome for us. More importantly, relationships thrive with communication. Scripture teaches us that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And over the centuries, this credence transformed into the belief that money itself is the root of all evil. Evil practices become points of shame, so naturally, we don't talk about them. However, money is not evil. It is a useful tool that we created to serve us, not the other way around. Leaning into our baptism, we can unshackle ourselves from such harmful beliefs that we've given power over us. And anyone can be baptized at any time. This ancient practice welcomes new members, new believers of any age into a community of believers who love God and who are loved by God. And God's grace neither has a definite start date nor a shelf life. And just as any baptism is for anyone, so is stewardship. Just like our relationship to water and our baptism, our stewardship practices can thrive with conversation, teaching, and communal engagement. So let's get started. When I was originally tasked for creating this stewardship plan for my congregation, I thought of the endless possibilities that we could use to explore together. It needed to be informative, tangible, and engaging. Plus, I love autumn too much to ruin it with a stewardship campaign that feels like punishment from God. So, God gave us the seasons, quarterly time markers that transition us throughout the years. I believe that applying the concept of the seasons to the freedom of our baptismal promise will ultimately help our church navigate stewardship on a holistic level. And there are many ways for you to apply these practices to your own ministry. You can unpack the budget on a concrete level. You can match up with an accountability partner to help with the process. You can evaluate your congregation's values. You can use each season to develop the different themes to engage the conversation of stewardship. But where do you begin? Well, first with a plan of action. Step one, call your teams together to engage each different aspect of your plan. Part two, select a season. And part three, select and follow one of the stewardship models that I've developed. For the sake of time, I developed 4 different models: the 3-month model, the transitional model, the yearly model, and the 4 seasons model. Now, before I go into how these models work, are there any questions? Don't be shy. No? All right. Yes, Claire, you can unmute yourself or put your.
I'm getting hand cramps trying to write all this down. Are you going to send us a copy of your presentation, or is that what's going to be available in a few weeks?
John?
Yep, I need to unmute. Yes. So we're going to have the presentation available. As I did last night, for those of you who were with me last night, I'm supposed to record and I forgot, and then I remembered. And so we missed like the first few minutes of the recording, but from the baptism section on, I've got recorded. So we'll have a recording, and then we'll post on the Synod's website the presentation, the video, plus the PowerPoint, plus all the resources that will go around the approach.
Okay, so that's what you were referring to, that was going to come out in finalized form in a few weeks.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm not going to try to cramp my hand too much. Let's make it.
Sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, you can write what you want, or you could just kind of sit and receive, and yeah, we'll just kind of.
And the other thing, just because this is the midwinter Power in the Spirit is new, I haven't heard from Pastor Drebus yet whether he is sending out like an email to everybody post-event that has links and resources. Like I had some books in the presentation I was doing yesterday that I want to try to get to everybody. So it's also possible that there will be a cumulative video email at the end that says, like, if you were in this presentation, here's where you go to get the links that were talked about there. So I'm going to suggest that to Pastor Drebus, but I haven't heard what the plan is for that yet.
All right, then. Well, let's continue. So after you've assembled your teams, you can break down your stewardship plan over the course of 3 months in the 3-month model. I would recommend taking some time to plan ahead before the 3-month cycle begins, because relationships take time, so your community may benefit from doing some independent research. And I will further explain how these models work. So if you are speed reading through them all, don't worry, we'll apply them to an actual plan later on. The transitional model allows for seasonal progression over the course of a single month. This model can take many forms. You may want to begin your month with one season and transition into a new one concerning some aspect of stewardship. This model may help in focusing one area of stewardship over a short period of time before welcoming a new season's innovations. Perhaps you want to take your time with a particular season. The yearly model allows you to explore multiple themes of stewardship that fall under the auspices of the season that you're in. Perhaps you prefer to cover multiple bases in a single month. The 4 seasons model allows for multiplicity in each week, which tackles different aspects of stewardship according to the season it falls under. Are there any questions? Just kind of unpause yourself and okay. Well, we can continue on. The use of these models can be explored in as many ways as the human mind can think of. However, for the sake of time, we're going to navigate each model according to the 4 seasons themselves. Spring is a time for new beginnings. This is the time to lean into the aspects of ministry that you've always wanted to try. This can also be a good time to explore aspects of your budget that may align with this particular theme. In that case, the 3-month model is a wonderful way to begin your year, regardless of the season that you choose. For your convenience, I have used my congregation's budget, and for their sake, I will be using different numbers. Each budgeted section contains a proposed start date, a theme, and areas of service to engage with your ministry plan. Say that your overarching theme is the season of worship, for the season is worship. You can break down the 3 months using the areas of service involving liturgy, music, and altar guild. And you can formulate questions that can help your team reevaluate what your community is using and reconnect with why you're using it. Who are your leaders, past and present? How is God calling you to grow? And where is God calling you to prune? And is your worship inclusive of the community that you wish to bring in and also the community that you want to keep? Now, this will be a breakdown of how you might engage this 3-month model month by month. Month 1, present ways to share your budget. You can create a PowerPoint. You can host a fair that showcases the budget and how it's being used while decorating according to that particular time of year. You can assemble and print a brochure. The sky's kind of the limit. Month 2, you really want to focus on and expand from your point of origin. Who will be faithful in the mission that you're trying to present? Now, every community has a core group of people that do just about everything. And yet this will help you explore who you may not have considered in the past. Treat your core team with respect, but always engage the greater community. And in the 3rd month, celebrate what you've learned. Host a theme night or warrant ceremony. Invite your neighbors to join you. Make sure that whatever you celebrate matches the theme of the season. Summer is a time for growing. You're a little more familiar with a ministry that you started a while ago. Perhaps you'd like to grow with an area of your budget that could benefit from a little more development. In that case, the transitional model may be a good place to start. Allowing for a shortened period of time of focus before the torch is passed on to a new subject in season keeps the conversation fresh. Say that your focus is administration under the theme of management. You can engage conversations pertaining to the building and grounds, communication, and staff expenses that guide your season. The following subjects can aid you week by week. Perhaps you'd like to explore how you might support the staff who supports your community. Besides the 2 questions that we have here, what are 2 or 3 more questions that your core team might consider coming up with together? I'll pause it for a bit and just kind of let you share.
Pastor Jennifer, just to sort of clarify for folks, questions that the team could consider about how to highlight whatever your theme ministry is. That's what you're looking for, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if our theme is the ways that we work together administratively, what are questions that would allow you to explore those stories to help people learn about the administrative portions of the ministry that you have going on? What would you ask?
more generic, but I was thinking about how can we best use the gifts in the congregation.
Okay.
That's not particularly administration, though.
Maybe a review of what has worked well. Highlight what's worked well and discuss why it worked well.
I always like to find out what's underused.
I think it's easy. It's good to start to just figure out what it is people know and understand. Maybe they don't even know what's going on.
And with the questions you're asking, what's really interesting to me is if you start to look in those directions, then you have let's take Marty's question there about do people know what's going on? That then you start to say, okay, folks may not know what it takes to have a worship service when we're in person indoors. And so how do we help people know all of the different folks who share their gifts to make that happen? I had a friend who told me this story that years ago, there was a somewhat eccentric pastor, let's call him that. And some of you will remember the days of the mimeograph, the thump thing, yeah, right? And this particular pastor was feeling a little underappreciated, didn't think people understood what it took to get the bulletin out and get everybody ready for worship. And so apparently, this is probably in the early 70s, he took his mimeograph machine and rolled it out in the narthex and loaded up the blank bulletins and put a sign that said, if you want a bulletin, feel free to run one. And people had to crank their own bullets on the way. I don't recommend that as a technique, right? Not a good idea to roll the copier out and tell people to do that. But there are much better ways that you can do what Marty's suggesting. If you've got a team of people who understand the ministry, that they can pull that together and start to tell that story in a way that allows the connection to be seen between the gifts people have and the ministry it's accomplishing.
Very good. Okay, let's see. All right, then. The second week would be building your plan of action, learning how to make small but manageable steps in order to build your, put your vision into a kind of mission kind of form. So John, you said that your eccentric pastor friend was creating bulletins, and people are like, what's taking you so long? And so he actually had them do it instead. What might be a good plan of action to assist in the community for administration in that kind of way? Think of your own context, your own administration. What are certain things that your community does in order to make sure that the ball continues to roll? Jen, I'm kind of relying on you to feel for questions. I can't really see anybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see too. Looks like Marty unmuted.
Yeah. So especially, I think now that, we've gone remote and we're a small congregation. And that, by the way, is a kind of a euphemism, but, so what it takes to actually, get on Facebook Live, to do the Zoom service, to have the PowerPoint ready for the Zoom service, I think people, and we get lovely comments. People are so appreciative of it, but I think they have no idea that virtually a half a day is done just on the logistical components of an hour-long Sunday service.
Mhm.
You know, what it takes to get it all in place so that they can see it all at the appropriate time. And I think that it's good to help people understand those components, because there could be somebody out there that would be willing to do some of that, you know, to spread that around, or quite frankly, have a better idea. But I think if you can plan out, you know, to take a component of something and just break it down by the kinds of tasks that are involved and the hours that are involved, and the skill set that you think is necessary for that, you know, and just go through all the things that happen behind the scenes, because frankly, you know, if I'm not doing it, I'm not necessarily paying attention to what it took to make that happen. So I
Might
don't
be
think
good to have
that's-
somebody from the congregation learn that, and then share that with the congregation, so that somebody different from the office or the administration, you know, would be talking about what they do, but someone else could appreciate it in a different way and relay it that way.
So what I'm hearing you say is break down the tasks that happen over the course of making Sunday morning happen, and then connect with maybe pew sitters or couch sitters now, and ask them to kind of take on those tasks, just so that they can gain a different perspective on how it all comes together. Is that about right? Very good. Anyone else?
Well, just to summarize that, I would say try to keep the congregation informed in what's going on. Technology, the work, the tasks. Just keep everybody informed.
Wonderful. What are some ways in which we can inform the congregation as part of your plan of action?
In our church, we do a lot of temple talks, and including about stewardship. And so people come up who do different things in the congregation, and we'll give a little talk ahead of time before the service starts. And we had that for our different ministries and different areas of our different areas. So that's one that I teaching and worship. I mean, the different ones we've done that, which gives a kind of a foundation of where to start in informing people. Sometimes they have PowerPoint with it. You know, we'll put PowerPoint at the beginning of the service. PowerPoint. This is, of course, when we were doing it in person.
Okay. So temple talks. How else are you communicating with one another?
I think because of the advent of so much technology being introduced into what we've been doing the last year, people are becoming more acclimated to using Facebook, you know, using the church's Facebook page, you know, going to that to get information, you know, and you know, the online worshiping, etc. So I think, you know, we've got to not only, you know, make our Facebook pages, but also our church websites more robust. I think that they are effective tools for communicating what's going on. You know, you know, just speaking from my own experience, I think sometimes we've let our web pages, you know, just kind of become obsolete. You know, you got notices on there for 6 months ago and nothing really recent. So I mean, just to be, I think, more focused on giving, you know, up to date, current, you know, meaningful information on an ongoing basis, and that would be a progression for our church, I think. Although we're doing a pretty good job, I mean, but we could always do much better. So.
One of the exciting things about this model, to me, is the idea that we gather a team of folks who care about the ministry. So if it's, they don't have to be people who are like gung-ho, we know everything there is to know about stewardship. These are folks who are passionate about whatever area of the ministry this is, And then you task them with, all right, identify the portion of it you want to tell the story of. Now build a plan for how you're going to tell the story. And Gary, to your point, somebody who brings a fresh set of eyes might think about telling the story in a new way. They might say, oh, it's St. Philip, we've got it here, here, and here. But somebody else might walk in and go, hey, have we ever thought about telling the story this way? And that's something that I know when you're doing, you got stuff going and you get in a pattern, it's really easy to start not to see those other possibilities. And so, like I said, an exciting part of this to me is to gather a short-term action team that's focused on the season, that's able to say, hey, you know what? The best way to tell this story this month might be to write offering prayers that highlight the ministry, this person, that we're doing. And so we have a whole new, specially written, unique offering prayer that highlights the ways that the administrative work we do, the staffing we have, makes ministry happen and connects that to the gifts people give. And so I think when you talk about the plan of action, that's to me, a really exciting part of it, is that you have people who are using their gifts to think about new ways to do this.
Thank you, everyone. And after you've gathered your resources and you've prepared your plan of action, you can cap off the season with a celebration. You've grappled with, oops, sorry, technology. Go back. You've grappled with these subjects highlighted in week 1, and you've gathered your resources during week 2. What are some ways that you can celebrate your time together? The celebration both serves as a means of thanking those on your team for the work that they've done, as well as share with the greater community what you've learned.
I think it's been hard. One of the parts of celebrating, in my opinion, is to lift up people that have contributed to the result. And we, I guess, as Lutherans, are pretty shy about, taking center stage or taking credit for anything or being recognized. I wish we could get over that and really, begin to celebrate and be able to, kind of let people show their light a little bit in a positive way, and not in a bragging way. And I think one of the ways to do that is just, always bring it back around to giving praise to God. We all like to get a good pat on the back or be recognized, and we feel good about ourselves, but I think it's we always have to make sure that our praises are directed, to what God has done for us. And the sermon.
Anyone else? Well, go ahead.
At Emmanuel Woodstock, it's just been wonderful. And I say we, it's a lot of folks beside me. We have a Bible study now that has never been attended like it is now. It's currently on Zoom and Facebook. Our worship has been on Zoom and Facebook, and now our tech team is putting it on YouTube. And it's amazing to me how we are reaching out to more people now than we ever have reached out to before.
Well, it's definitely something to celebrate. Perhaps you can even make a video montage of this is where we are, this is where we started out, and then show this is where we are right now. And you can like post that on your YouTube page and say, hey, check this out. This is the new thing that we made together in spite of everything that's going on.
And I saw one church, I saw one church that did kind of a behind the scenes thing. So, you know, as Debbie was talking about all the people who go into this tech team to make all of these things happen, you actually get somebody filming them, and then you put together a little deal saying, hey, this is what it takes to, thanks to this person and this person and this person, our tech team that makes this all possible for you to experience each week. Like I said, the folks I saw do that had a really good response.
I know that our tech person at Apostles Lutheran has compiled a blooper reel, so that'll be interesting. Yes, Claire.
Going back to the celebrate thing, I was wondering if you could also tie it into sort of annual celebrations you already have at the church, because we have a certain rotation of fellowship events, and perhaps tie it into one of those if it's at the appropriate time of the year.
Oh, absolutely. You can definitely tailor your start date to match the ending celebration towards an annual celebration that you already do. Anyone else? Well, all good things must come to an end, even if they make way for equally good things to come. Your season in the fourth week is encouraged to usher in a new season. What are some ways in which we can welcome a new team and kind of help them through this new stage in the process, since this is going to be another 3 weeks of action plan highlighting and plan creating and celebration? I guess that links into the question of how do you already welcome people, and where would you like to either improve upon that, and what do you do well with it?
And just to highlight, and maybe just a clarification piece, the thought here is not that you have one team who's assigned, a team of 4 people who's assigned to do all of this.
Mm-hmm.
The thought here is that you have 4 teams or however many teams, each one focusing on a particular season. And so when you're talking about ushering in one season or from one season to the next, it's handing off to the next team. So I think that's helpful as you think about Pastor Jennifer's question. If you're handing off to the next group who's working on this, how do you make that transition point in a helpful way? How do you welcome those folks in? How do you set the stage for continuing this conversation?
So you're not having all the team members concentrating on one season?
Instead of having one team that tries to do everything all year long,
Yes,
you have multiple teams, each one focusing on a specific thing. So the ask of somebody to volunteer is not, will you be the stewardship team this year? It's, will you spend a few weeks developing, sharing, and highlighting this particular part of our ministry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a better approach.
And are you suggesting that you will have planned how the sequence of the teams and what they will be doing, so that will make this ushering in the new season, again, it's just part of the plan?
yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done for my own context is I've focused on their budget and areas of service that they could focus on in the highlighting and then the preparation and the celebration. And then the welcoming would focus on another aspect of the budget, but a new team as well. But that's just my community. Now we can explore how that might look a little differently once it's actually put off the ground. You yourselves might discover something else.
And again, what's exciting, what's exciting to me about this as a possibility too is it's very hard to ask somebody to commit to something for a year.
Yeah.
Particularly, it was hard before COVID. It seems really hard to me now. But a lot of people would be happy to help you with something that's 3 to 5 weeks long, that has a clear goal and a specific place you're going. And so if you have a group of people who've planned the sequence, and then you're recruiting some specific folks to say, here's what we want you to do. We want you to take this and run with it, have fun, be creative. Here's your window. Here's what we want the outcome to be, and go. And that's something that people can get their hands around, get their minds around a little more easily, I think, than. So we need a new stewardship team this year. Will you commit to the following year to share your gifts, to do blah, 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 blah. So.
Particularly if you feel like you might be stuck in it for more even than a year. Because church positions end up being that way. You're the stewardship committee until someone else will step in, you know.
Fair point.
As I said before, there will always be a core demographic of people who seem to do everything to keep your church running. And the stewardship plan welcomes you to recognize and honor that core group while you are looking for other people in your community who can step up for short periods of time as well.
Can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
I would be curious to know of the attendees, if everyone but me and my husband are on stewardship. Ed and I are not on stewardship formally in our church. So is everyone else a part of the stewardship team?
So what I heard you ask is who here is currently serving or has in the past served on a stewardship team?
Yes.
Sure, raise your hand. Okay, that's like half the people here. I do want to be mindful of the time, so we'll continue. How about that? Now, autumn is a time to reap what you've sown. You can gather your bounty to prepare for a long winter. In that case, the yearly model may better suit your stewardship plan. Your team can stretch out the entire season to cover all of your bases. Your focus on community outreach during the yearly model can serve to inquire how you can be better servant leaders in your community. This can also be a time to explore the wonderful world of local ministries beyond your immediate community. You can ask questions like, who are your neighbors, and how can you accompany the stranger and entertain angels in your presence? And for those of you who don't know what local ministry is, it's basically local ministries that accompany God's mission to the greater world. And the beauty of the seasonal year is that you can cover multiple bases under the auspices of maybe one budget or one aspect of the budget. Your team can explore and interact with one of the aspects listed here. For example, under community outreach, you can spend an entire month dedicated to that service. Or if you have a seasonal parade that you want to prepare for, you can spend an entire month trying to prepare for that. If you want to talk about passing down skills to your children, that's an entire month as well, and so on and so forth. Or perhaps it's a little too much to focus on a different aspect of stewardship month by month. And so you can incorporate a quarterly model, or every 3 months you focus on an aspect of this budget. Don't be afraid to rise to the occasion, but also take breaks with your congregation when you need rest, because you're still learning together. And winter is the perfect time to ponder the past year. However, most people go into hibernation mode. Others travel to warmer climates in order to evade the dreaded seasonal affective disorder. It is for this reason that connections are most crucial to one another. I myself am not a fan of winter and was very pleased to see that the snow fell one day and melted the next here in Gloucester. For this reason, the Four Seasons model may serve your community. Perhaps you'd like to look inward towards the care of your own church community. This may take the form of Christian education. You can ask yourselves questions of what does it mean to be a Lutheran in the 21st century, or how to become more theologically grounded in an increasingly secular world. Like the transitional model that we just talked about, you're able to transition from a central theme on a weekly basis and then usher in a new season. Unlike the transitional model, however, you are not restricted to how you may explore these seasons assigned to your stewardship. You can A, have all 4 of your teams work together to tackle aspects of one section of the budget, or B, have all 4 teams explore a similar subject of their respective budget and incorporate it into the season. For the sake of time, let's talk about option A. So if under the auspices of winter, your stewardship is to your elderly for the sake of Erik Erikson's stages of development, that is how I've assigned that demographic. So blame Erikson, not me. What are some ways that you can promote the stewardship to your community's elderly through maybe in the spring liturgy, in the summer, staff expenses, and through autumn planned benevolence? You know, you're right. That one's a little too complicated. Let's try a fun one. Say that you want to do stewardship to your children, infancy to age 12. What are some ways that you can promote stewardship to your kids by teaching them about altar care or the altar guild? Well, for example, you can bake bread with kids. You can, if your community yields to it, take them out to a vineyard and show them this is how wine is made. And this is the process that it takes to get the wine from this vineyard to the wine press, and then to storage, and then to the store, and then to our community table, our altar table. In the summer, grounds. This is what we can have a cleanup day. See how people are throwing trash around the area? Maybe you don't have that problem in your own respective playroom, but good stewards take care of your grounds. You can weed the gardens. You can build a community garden. And in autumn, God's work our hands. How do you go out into your community in order to feed the homeless? Or maybe you can collect backpacks and you can pack those backpacks with school supplies for other kids who are going off in school. There's a whole way that you can do ministry to your young and rear them up in the church. So with those examples, what are some aspects of stewardship that we can do for our youth? 13 to 20. Who's a musical person? Who does music in their church? Yeah. Oh,
Lavelva.
yeah. Well, what are some aspects of music that you can incorporate for the 13 to 20 age? There's some out.
Oh, we've just had a really good, camp songs and, and opening that up to what they have heard and know and all that sort of thing.
Nice. Who else? Who else is a music person? Who here plays the guitar? Who here plays the ukulele? Okay. Who here plays the kazoo? Yeah? The maracas. The triangle. The cowbell. The jingle bell. What about in communications? How are some ways that you're communicating with your community that you can maybe pass on to the 12 to 20 crowd or learn from the 13 to 20 crowd? We're a talkative group.
Mhm.
Yes.
We've had youth participate in like little skits in the past. We had adults and youth doing skits on whatever the theme of the Sunday was. In the gospel, for example, or the other readings.
Okay. Skits. Paulsons, I saw you leaning in. I don't know if you want to say something. No?
I don't usually work with youth, but I think it's always a good thing to encourage people who use social media to include posts that include some of the activities that we do with our faith community into our other social circles. For instance, almost all of my art community knows that I'm a Christian because I do that.
Excellent.
It seems to me like we could use that age group of people to teach us some things. They know so much more about using computers, and they're just so comfortable with it that they could probably give us some lessons, and maybe even to the point of helping seniors who have trouble using their computer or using Facebook or using YouTube. Let them do some teaching for those of us who are more challenged when it comes to computer stuff.
So kind of like teach your seniors how to use things day, right? Oh, or see high school seniors teaching senior citizens, seniors. That's what I meant.
Well, what you're talking about is great relational stuff, where what we're building across in that situation is how do we build our stewardship and in relationship where we're connecting across generations and people have the chance to share their gifts. A lot of times we are teaching to young people, and Pat's idea of flipping the script a little bit and letting young people be the teachers really invites them to share their knowledge and engage, and that's an exciting possibility. Pastor Jennifer, I want to give you it's a 7-minute warning before we're supposed to be done. So just so you know what your timeline
It's
is.
okay, because this is the last slide.
Perfect.
See, there's a message to why it was going so fast. So the final season, what are some ways in which you can promote stewardship to your adults, your ages 21 to 65 crowd, or I guess I should say 64. And you can use aspects of the budget from spring, altar guild, summer building, and autumn faith forward initiative, I guess, to kind of move you forward. That's all I have really. John, do you want to share your link?
Yeah. So if you'll stop sharing, then I'll pop one thing up real fast. So when we think about this Seasons of Stewardship concept, that there is a relational storytelling, connecting, telling your ministry story aspect to what's going on here. Pastor Jennifer, there we go, excellent. And when we think about connecting both the year-round telling of the ministry story and helping people see that stewardship is about how we take the gifts that God has entrusted to us and turn those gifts into ministry. If we're doing that in one of these seasons, whether it's in a monthly piece or a yearly piece or a transitional piece or whichever of these models works in your context, then you are in a good place to, at the point that you want to do, if you want to do, a specific financial emphasis, to say to someone, you have been learning in all these different ways and celebrating the ministry we're doing. Here's an opportunity where we invite you to continue your support, to share your support, to grow your support, depending on where people are. And so what we've put together as a companion to the approach Pastor Jennifer has shared with you is, oh goodness, I'm usually on two screens and now I'm on one, and I'm having trouble finding my window. Hold on one second. I want to, all right, I gotta fix something so I'm on the right screen, because you don't necessarily want to see all of my email. So hold on, go back to here, and now I can go here, and now I can go here. All right, so what the companion piece is going to get posted, I'll make it a little bigger, is a Seasons of Stewardship financial emphasis guide. And so what's going to get out there is a step-by-step, how do you, in the midst of these different teams, in the midst of this different storytelling, in the midst of proclaiming the ministry, how do you then, if you have a time of year where you want to focus specifically on financial stewardship, how do you do that? Well, this piece is going to walk you through it. Determine who the leadership team is for this particular group. Determine approximately when you want to complete this financial emphasis. So you need to pick your date that you want to be done, plan your schedule backwards. Again, all of this is going to be available to you, so you don't have to worry about writing it all down. At that first meeting, then you need to decide, well, which approach works for us? Are we going to be in person? So, and we know our group doesn't really use technology, and so everything we want to do is all in person. Do we want to have ministry celebration events? Some folks would call those cottage meetings. At this point, I want to call them ministry celebration events. You can do that in person. You can do that digitally. Do you want to do a particular digital emphasis where everything is wrapped up in a digital context? And for each of these options, then there is a link that takes you to, here's a step-by-step how you would do that. So if you want to do all digital, then here are the steps to walk you through a digital emphasis. And then within those steps are links that will take you to sample letters, sample scripts, all the pieces you need to put together your own focused emphasis on finances and to ask people to respond. So you figure out what you're going to do, you got resources available to you, you get your date in this first meeting of when you want to be done, you get your timeline with responsibility, you work on thank yous there, After it's done, you share thank you. So everything is here to walk you through step by step how you want to do or how you can do a financial emphasis that takes the theme that we've been using of Seasons of Stewardship. And so as you go through that whole year and you're talking about, hey, we're in this season of stewardship and here's the story and here's the celebration. So that when you roll around to whatever point of year you're going to do a financial piece, then people go, oh yeah, that's right. That's the ministry we've been doing. And the goal here is to make it as easy as possible for you to hand this to somebody who can then just walk it through, adapt it to your context, and not have to start from scratch. Part of the reason we want to do this, one is just to be, I think that's what it means to be church together and be synod, is to support congregations in doing this, but also some of the resources that have been available for congregations are starting to go away. Budget cuts, other things that used to make these things available at a reasonable price. Those things are disappearing. And so we're trying to step in and say, hey, if you want to do this, here's a way you can do it that lets you adapt it to your local context, but doesn't mean you have to start from scratch every year, that ties into this broader theme of telling the ministry story. So as I said, most folks aren't looking to do a financial emphasis in February. I would probably suggest Lent, not the best time to do that, So, but we'll have it up soon, and all of this will be accessible, and we'll get it out to everybody in the synod. And if you've got specific questions, if you need information sooner, if you're like, actually, we work on this kind of a schedule, and boy, the sooner we can have that, the better. I put my email address in the chat, and you're welcome to reach out to me, and I can get you stuff right away, but we'll have it up on the website. And there's also already up on the website, again, we've got to restructure to make it a little easier to find, something called Generosity Matters, which is the emphasis we put together last year. Actually was piloted and developed in partnership with St. Philip, with Gary's congregation. And we developed it together, and they piloted it, and then we rolled it out to the synod. So this year we're developing in partnership with apostles, and we're going to roll it out to the synod. And next year, if anybody else has a great idea and wants me to work with you to help develop it, and we'll roll it out to the synod, I'm always looking for partners. So I know we've pushed up against time. I'm going to stop talking. Are there specific questions people want to ask before they give us the time to head back to the center warning?
Are you recommending a number of a team member number, like 4 or 6 or?
Go ahead, Pastor.
You need to say you.
Are we were saying teams of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Is there a better number for the number of people in the team?
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, ministry is about the people that you want and the people who show up.
I think it would be really hard to do this with folks who aren't passionate about it, and really hard to do it with a group of 30 people.
Yeah.
When I think of teams, I think 4, 5, 6 people are great. 2 people feels like you're kind of burdened. And so somewhere in that 3 to 6 seems like it could be a sweet spot. But if you've got 2 really passionate people, go with it. I'd rather have 2 passionate people than 6 lukewarm people any day. We got about 9 seconds and the rooms are going to close automatically. So thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor Jeniffer.
Thank you.
Hope everybody has a good rest of the night.
Bye.
Again. Hi, Debbie Myers. Glad you found your way into the room.
Yes, I did.
Hope everybody enjoyed your workshops you signed up for.
And David, be well. My husband is demanding dinner.
Enjoy.
In a very, very nice way. In a very, very nice way. He's the nice
question.
can people who wanted to come and couldn't come, will these be archived that they could visit them after we close up, or are they just gone away?
No, the website will be active for quite a while. And in fact, if you've enjoyed Midwinter Power in the Spirit, Summer Power in the Spirit is still on the website. You can pretend it's July and go through the whole experience of the Summer Power in the Spirit that we did this past summer. There was the counseling workshop was not recorded, so that's one that won't be. We were, I think, that was kind of some sensitive material in there, and folks shared some personal things. I can understand why we don't want that archived on YouTube forever. But